Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Flick Family Life in Crisis. My name is Brooke, your host. So today we're going to talk about adjusting back to marriage after you have a baby. One thing that I've run into with all of our kids, it seems like, not just one of them, but all of them, like when we have a baby, like I hate my husband. And I know it's just mainly hormones, but it's really odd because I really I hate him. Like, I, I guess my thing is when the baby is born, we are on different schedules. I barely get any sleep, and I'm not really too much of a fan of anybody, including my children. Like, that's not just my husband. Like, I'm just not happy. So yeah, when we have a baby, Dee and I normally sleep in completely different bedrooms and completely different beds because our schedules don't match. And I was so up and down with Jaeger this time that having someone try to cuddle with me in the middle of the night was like almost an act of war because I wasn't getting any sleep. And my husband snuggles didn't really help. You know, they felt like an invasion of space when I didn't have any space from my older kids, adjusting to mommy with the baby, to the baby adjusting outside the womb and just to being, mommy. So recently I've decided to put those issues aside, especially now that I have a little more breathing room with the schedules right now and my mommy needs. Like, I have a lot more time just to be me. Like, I really do just have a little bit more time. I can leisurely pick up the house if I want to. I can play with the kids if I want to. And it's not like a definite one or the other. And like one is going to, suffer completely. As an example, I don't think I've actually cleaned the house in like 48 hours. And to be perfectly honest with you, it does not look that bad. Like, yeah, cool, like, I could totally do the dishes, but, any other given time, if I didn't clean the house every single day, and I got behind, it was practically treacherous that I did that. Like, it was so overwhelming when I got back to doing everything that, I don't know, it was just one of those things where you just get overwhelmed if you don't clean your house every single day. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry, that was just open air for a second. I got lost in my notes. And what really sucks is if you guys do podcasts, if somebody else that does podcasts is listening, and you have a software that does editing for audio, that would be great if you could recommend one to me. I've tried 3 of them. I don't like it. And most of the time I just do my recording on my phone anyway. Believe it or not, I have a microphone actually hooked up to my phone because it's easier for me just to record things from my phone and then just share it to the cloud. But anyways, so once again, just because I'm getting more sleep, Darius and I are going to try and, get back on the same, sleeping schedule, be husband and wife, it feels like more. And, I'm not super excited to do it. I'm not going to lie. I am not excited about sharing my face with anyone because, I don't know. It's starting to get really warm at night, or at least in the evening. We go upstairs and we're like, holy crap, it's super hot up here, and I don't want to be hot. I don't like being hot. I don't want to be hot. I'm tired of being hot. And Darius is a snuggler. Oh my gosh, it makes me want to hurt him. I am not a touchy person, at all. I don't know why. As I've grown older, I'm just not a touchy-feely person too much. And it's just me mainly just being selfish to myself. I just feel with myself, my parents, they never really touched, my parents were not touchy people at all, and I was okay with that. my parents had a different kind of a marriage. They were very like they they were like orbiting each other. It was just like, now that I look back at my parents' marriage, it's like they were orbiting each other. They were never really like there, but they just kind of like followed each other around. It's unusual to explain, and I'll explain later. But I've just been so extremely selfish with myself that, like, watching my parents when I was young, orbiting each other, I was completely okay with them not touching. And then as I got older, like, obviously in your high school phase, you're just like, woo, what's this do? Let's touch that. Like, you're just all over each other because you're like, oh, I'm madly in love. It's the best. Like, no, it's hormones, dude. Calm down. But, as an adult, like, when you get older, you're really cautious about yourself. Like, at least I was, like, right before Darius and I got married, I thought that I was hot stuff. Like, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm gonna party. I'm gonna be a girl. Like, let's do all the things because no one has control over me. I'm grown. When in all actuality, I was totally not. And transitioning from that to being madly in love with my husband to being pregnant like 4 months later, it was such a hormonal transition period. And I was 20. I was like, yeah, I just turned 20 when all that happened. And like, Darius had like the lovey-dovey, like, I want to touch you all the time, like, let's have fun with adult time, all the time. We had that for like a couple of months or something like that. But other than that, it's more like we've just been kind of like moderately steady with everything just because I'm not a touchy person. But, and it has to deal with these like love languages. And I'd never actually heard that phrase until I was talking with his sisters one day. I think we were at the pond or something, our first summer there, and they're like, oh yeah, Darius, you just need to learn each other's love language. And I'm like, well, what's that? And they're like, you don't know what a love language is. I'm like, no, I have no idea what a love language is. I think that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, I need you to explain it to me. She's like, well, as an example, some people love to touch each other. The other people, setting aside time for them is how they show love. Like, and that's just my example because that's me and Darius. Haha. But, yeah, like, Darius has this, he, like I said, is very lovey-dovey. If we're not touching, like, I don't love him, apparently. Like, that's just kind of how it seems to be recently. And that's fine. That's perfectly okay, but I personally don't like touching. So it's hard for me as not only a mom when I have all these things going on. I'm constantly being touched by children. Like Jaeger is going through this time right now where he is just constantly needing to be held. Deacon and Calvin are being really lovey-dovey with mommy recently, which is good, but it sucks because I have other things to do in my day. And that sounds really selfish, but that's because it is, in a way. Like, I have to be a little selfish with myself when it comes to my children a little bit, just because if I don't, then I will sit down and not move and just hang out with them. So, I mean, there are specific things that I don't want to sound like I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate my kids. I have to, distance myself from them or something. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is I would literally just veg out and hang out with them all day long if I had my way. And if I have my way, then we just hang out and watch Grey's Anatomy all day. They don't care what they watch on TV. They just come up and sit on the couch with mommy and snuggle. Sometimes we play with toys on like mommy's knees, and they've been playing in my hair lately. It's really weird. But I have to be selfish with my time when it comes to my kids. And Jaeger, like I said, has been having this problem where he just wants to be held all the time. And I know it's just because, he's a little lovey-dovey baby, but oh my gosh, it's really frustrating. a lot of times. But anyways, to continue, like I said, Darius is a touchy-feely person, and I am not. So, like, the way that I show love is spending time with people. Basically, like, I don't have to touch you, but we need to interact and talk sometimes and be in the same room for, like, a solid chunk of the day. Or setting aside time to be with me is another thing I need, like, in our marriage. Like, I need dates. No dates mean I don't feel like I'm being put first in his heart, or, I'm not acting like a contender in our marriage. I know that sounds weird, but I feel like marriage is, it's like a battle. It's like a game. You gotta be a contender. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, cool. Like, I'm going to be a contender by, like, sweetening you up and, being lovey-dovey and all those things. But, like, I need to be a contender, too. And that means that, like, you need to put me first. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I struggle with that a lot just because, we do have 3 kids. And, like, it's really hard for me anyways, to try to keep up with his love language. Like, Darius likes cute texts. He likes, I'm thinking about you, I love you. And me, I'm just like, oh, that's so sweet. Like, if I had gotten, like, a text or something in the day and then I ignore it because I have other things to do. I'm a very busy person. So, like, for me, sitting down and just being like, oh, hey, I love you, or, like, love notes 3-4 times a year. I want to say 3-4 times a year, but, like, I don't know, I write him a love letter like every 2-3 months or something like that. So about 4 love letters a year, and they're, like, massive. They're like 2-3 pages. And he loves that kind of stuff. Now, me, I am not that kind of person. Would I like the gesture? Yes, I would. But is it a need in my marriage? No, it's not. I really don't feel the need to really just put together that extra umph. It doesn't do anything for me. I know it does for him, though, so I fight to make sure that I remember to do these things. I make sure to write him love letters and tell him how much I love him, and tell him how much, he's the best, daddy ever, and how he's the best husband ever, and how much I love him, and how hard he is working for us, because he needs to hear it, just like I need my own kind of encouragement. I just really do. But, when we were easing ourselves back into our marriage, I really had to, like, legitimately ease myself. Like, the first 3 months of Jaeger's life was really like, full struggle for me. Just because, I didn't have me. I didn't have a self when it came to Jaeger. Like, I was Jaeger's little slave, and I was okay with that because he's super cute, but I'm one of those people, it's like, oh, as long as you're adorable, I'll just follow you. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, like, I was Jaeger's slave for the last 3 months. I mean, now he's starting to, like, be okay with being on his own, and, now he's like, ooh, I have brothers. Like, it's just, he's better at being by himself now, which is great. Oh, excuse me. At least it's great for me. Oh, very much excuse me. Sorry, I just keep, like little burps because I'm drinking coffee. But yeah, we had to, like, get back into love. You know what I mean? Like, we have a spare bedroom. It's Darius's, like, game room. But when Jaeger was born, it was set up so Darius's mom could stay here with us because she helped out with the baby at first. And after she had left, Darius actually just, like, moved in that room, and it became his room. And, any other given time, it's like, oh, yeah, that's totally normal. Like, no, we're like an old married couple. Like, and our friend of ours actually brought that up. He's like, oh, my gosh, you're such an old married couple. But, like, when he wakes up at, like, 6:45, in the morning and his alarm is stupid loud because he doesn't wake up to anything, it's really difficult. Like, we just really struggle with, him waking up that early. We being me and Jaeger. And I mean, when you wake up like 5, 6 times in the night, you have to kind of hate somebody when they wake up at, you just put the baby down and then their alarm goes off at like 6:30. You have a little bit of hate. Like, I'm not gonna lie. There are times where I knew he was gonna be waking up in a little bit, so I just didn't even go back to sleep, and then I was up for the rest of the day, and it was horrible. Like, there are days where I just don't sleep. Actually, I'm currently in one of those ruts right now. I have been going to bed at like, 11:30, 12 o'clock. I think Jaeger's awake. And, I've been going to bed at like 11:30, 12 o'clock. And then I wake up around 8:39, which is perfect. It's a perfect time for me to sleep. But recently, I mean, like the last week or so, I've been going to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I wake up at 7. And that's my day. Like, I still do everything else that I do in the day: dishes, housework, playing with the kids, dealing with Jaeger. Like, I still get my errands done. I do everything. But I do it in such a small sleep period of time. It's ridiculous. And then, of course, the kids, like, when I'm out of whack, they're out of whack. And my older two have been sneaking into bed and falling asleep around like 9:30, 10 o'clock, which we normally put them to bed at 8:30, but they've been sneaking until like 9:30 recently. But like Deacon wakes up at 5 every morning, and I don't know what to do about it. He wakes up around like 5, 6 o'clock every single day. He's the first one awake, and we're all just so out of whack. Because like I mean, he used to be on the same schedule as Calvin, where they woke up at 6 every day, and then they would like watch TV or whatever until like 9, and then they'd be like, "Mom, it's time to get the heck up." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever. All right, Mommy will put the gate down for downstairs." But when you deal with children in the night and you have to wake up super early, like right after getting them to bed and all that fun stuff, you hate that other person just a little bit. So when you have that little bit of hate and you don't know what to do with all that anger, you're just like, whatever, go sleep in the other room. Like, I don't want to sleep in the same bed as you. I don't want to snuggle. I don't want to put effort to our love because I'm busy right now. And I feel like that's really common with new parents, is like you fall out of love a little bit. You just, you don't put time for each other. You don't, because you are so focused on that baby. You are so focused on those kids. You're focused on your life. You're not focused on the love, and there's a completely different, though they're different things, okay? Like, life and love are two different things. And there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that. That's why I had to make that very clear. Like, you can, as a parent, orbit. See what I did there? Remember from earlier. Orbit around each other for years and years and years and completely forget about the love. For years. I watched my parents do that for roughly 10 years. And they had spikes. They had spikes of love, which is, whatever. But then I look at my friend Lindsay. Growing up, her mom watched me when we were kids. And I look at her mom's marriage with her husband, or with her dad, and like, they were nothing like my mom and dad. I look at them and they had it. They were 50-50. And I feel like that's the way it really should be. They had life and they had love, and it was beautiful. And I just remember that growing up. Like, they had their busy life, but they always made time for each other. They always, like, were giggly around the house, and they were giggly with my friend Lindsay and her brother Tyler. Like, I loved watching their parents grow up. Like, it was I hate to say it, now that I look back on my life, it kind of looked like like with my parents, and I'm probably going to get yelled at for this later, but I'm okay with that. My parents, like I said, they orbited around each other, like, yeah, cool, they loved each other, but they were so busy in their own lives. It was either like their lives, or it was like me or my brother or my sister when she came into the world. It was, they focused on us, but they never really focused on each other. And personally, I think that's one of the reasons why their marriage failed. But I guess as a mom and as a parent, and as a child, you look at your parents, you're like, I'm going to be better than you. Like, I'm going to have a better life than you. And then I look at my life now and I'm just like, I'm pretty content. Like, I'm not better, I'm not worse. Pretty content. And, like, I make an effort in my marriage, and it's really hard to make an effort in my marriage, especially considering I have 3 kids under 5. But that's something that is newer. Like, that's newer age situations. Like, normally people who want families, they either have them super close together or they have them moderately far apart, like 5 years in between each kid. I didn't want that. I kind of wanted this chaotic crazy, and I was okay with that. I looked at my husband's sisters, whose marriages, by the way, are phenomenal. I mean, oh my gosh, there's something out of a fairy tale. I mean, you look at them and you're looking for the wings. You're looking for the wings and the halo for both of them. They're just, oh my gosh, they're just the best. I look at my husband's sisters' marriages and I'm just like, I wish. Like, any day of the week, I wish. Like, they're the goal. Having a 50 billion kids, making time, not even just making time for each other, but just it coming so naturally, and just like always being infatuated with each other, always coming home and being like, you are the absolute best person today, and I love you. And I don't care if you haven't showered in a week, but I love you so much, and you're just so sexy. Like, you look at your spouse and you're just like, I wish I had that. They have that. Oh my gosh, they have that. And you can tell. Like, you walk into a room with either set, I should say, either set of, couples, and you're blown away. You automatically feel more love when you are in their presence for your spouse, just because you look at them and you're like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. Like, it's just how life works sometimes. And they're also people that just, generally warm a room. They're just one of those lights. But, anyways, back to my marriage. I'm just trailing off here, people. My computer just shut off for absolutely no reason, and it won't come back on, so I just lost all my prompts. So we're just talking now at this point. Woo! Open talk. How's it going? But yeah, you have to ease back in, go back where I was, I had to ease back into marriage. You gotta ease back into marriage. You have to make the time for each other. Now, I have a really good babysitter. I have an amazing babysitter. She's always relatively open. She doesn't complain about, heaven forbid I go over my time or something like that. I pay her well. At least I think I pay her well. And, she's like a sister to me. Her and my little sister grew up down the street from each other, and oh my goodness, they were 2 peas in a pod when they were young. I mean, now that they're older, they have their differences, but, she is really available for everything, which is great. But I probably utilized my babysitter a little too much in the nicest way possible. She is, like I said, she's phenomenal. She grew up with my sister, and I've known her my entire life. Like, my sister and I are like are oil and water. I love her. Do not get me wrong. We are one. Or we're in the same cup, I should say. We're in the same family cup. But she is oil and I am water. We are two completely different people. But Alexia is, my babysitter, is more like what I would have wanted in a sister. Now keep in mind, I didn't want a sister in the first place. I wanted a brother. But that was just because I had a big brother and he was amazing. But that's besides the point. Anyways, Alexia is over what I always wanted in a sister. And, but I mean, like, she's, creative, artistic. My sister isn't. She's sporty and preppy. She just does her own thing. And, whereas, I'm creative and artsy and stuff like that. I always wanted a little me, and Alexia is a little me, but I'm not saying that I don't love my sister at all. I love her to death. She is my little fire of inspiration whenever I can. She strives to be so awesome, and she does, and she is awesome. And I love her for that. And she's so strong. Both of them are. But, Alexia, she'll actually text me from time to time, be like, it's been a while since you guys have had a date, like, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, when I have to be reminded by my babysitter, like, oh, hey, you guys haven't had a date in a while, I'm just like, oh, you're right, like, we haven't had a date in a while, I guess we should totally use you. And then there are times where we completely overuse her, and but like I said, I pay her well, so I can't complain, and she loves the kids, and she loves hanging out at our house, which is great. But we have people to help us in our marriage, which is like, my babysitter, who is always just so wonderful and open and available for us to utilize her service, which is great. Or like my dad. My dad is so full of wisdom. My dad's had, I think, like two marriages in his life. And, he has a lot of wisdom and he has a lot to say. And me and Darius, we always soak it up. Like we're just, whenever somebody gives us any kind of advice, that's what goes on. And my dad worked nights, so a lot of times he would sit down and he would just go to sleep. He'd sit down in the chair and he'd pass out. I actually, if I get the chance to, I'll put it on Instagram. Like, our couch is from my parents' house, and where my dad would sit, it's a leather couch, and the clasp of the hat actually wore a hole in this couch. Now this couch is only like 5 years old, brand new. Like it should not be as worn as it is, but it is. And you can just tell because the rest of the couch looks moderately new, or like moderately, used. But that one section is just so extremely worn out. It's ridiculous. But, my parents slept in different beds pretty much for the most of their life. They, at least I think so. As, from a child's perspective, my dad slept on the couch a lot. And, because they were on day and night schedules, they rarely ever slept in the same room. And, you don't think about those things when you're an adult at all. You don't think about, like, okay, cool, let me see who I saw in marriage. And I say me because my husband's mother did not get married until a little while ago. So I'm not really too sure about what he would see marriage-wise. He probably saw his grandmother and grandfather, which, once again, superpower couple. I love them. If they're listening, oh my gosh, I love your guys' marriage. It's the best, and you guys are just such a goal to aspire to. Their compromise, their marriage, their talking, their, communication skills, their love for God is just, oh my gosh, it's something out of a fairy tale or something like that. I mean, it really is just awesome. I love their story, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, from a child's perspective, you don't realize as an adult, like, you look back at your life, you're like, so, how am I supposed to act in a marriage? Like, how am I supposed to be a family and love each other? How does that work? It was really hard for me because my parents were on completely different schedules my entire life. So, like, they loved each other when they had time, not when it was just natural to them, which is really hard to do. And they stuck it out for a really long time, and I'm proud of them for that. They really gave their marriage a good shot, and it just didn't work out for them. But looking at me and Darius, I'm not really concerned about that. Jaeger's waking up, dang it. But I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I can. He and I are very, very passive. We don't, like I said, we're going through this time right now where we're easing back into our marriage. Like, we were separate people because I was, like, trying to be super mom for a while. And now it's just, we're falling back into each other, but it's so great too. I'm not knocking this at all. It's great because we're really just falling back in love. I mean, just being cute. I mean, the other day we were just, like, joking around and being sweet with each other, and it was awesome. Like, it was so sweet. He is totally awake. And but I'm gonna finish this up really quick. But Darius and I, we love each other so much that when we have a new child, it's like, yeah, we have this break from our marriage, but we fall right back in with love. I mean, it's so beautiful because, he'll come home and he'll be like, I love you. You want to snuggle? And I'm like, yeah, sure, fine, I guess. But, like, I'm not going to lie. I love the snuggles, and then he'll be like, okay, cool. Do you want to watch your show? Like, he sat and watched my show with me last night. Like, that was so awesome. Just spending that time together. And then, of course, we'll sit there and we play around like little kids. Like, we'll poke each other and tickle each other, and, in the store, we're just like, ooh, I'm going to pinch a butt, we're just weird like that, and we're so cute, but, like, I can tell you for the last 3 months, we really didn't have that because I was in such, like, get the heck away from me kind of mood. And when you have kids, it gets like that. But let me tell you, stick it out, because if your marriage is strong, if your love is strong, then you fall right back in love with that person. And it's so beautiful every time around. You're constantly falling in and out of love your entire marriage. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. But if you're not falling in love, and it's not beautiful over and over and over again with your partner, if you're not continuing to date your partner, then you're not really fulfilling love. And I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people misinterpret, is they're like, okay, I'm awesome, I'm married now, I don't have to put effort. Like, no, you have to put effort. You have to fall in and out of love the entire time. I mean, like, what the heck? I mean, what makes it interesting? I'm not saying fall out of love and, like, it's not like, you take off the ring and you're no longer married. No, you still have those morals. You still have that life. I didn't want that to be misinterpreted, so I decided to put that in there. But one thing that you should really do in your marriage is fall in and out of love. Like, you're going to have times where you're all over each other, and then you're going to have times where, like, you're just going to sit there in your underwear and chat sometimes. Oh, my microphone fell. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have good times and bad times, but as long as the good times, you're still in love every good time, then I feel like that's a plus. But definitely when you have babies, it's very important to fall back into love, even after you guys have decided to, adjust your life around your baby. You still need to make time for yourselves. And that's going to be the end of it. If you guys have a chance to, go ahead and go to my Patreon if you want if you want more episodes like this. Go ahead and go to my Patreon, and I think it's like $1 for one, $5 for two, and I think with 5 you also get some other things. I am getting ready to do the lovely craft thing. I haven't decided if this episode or the last episode that I just recorded. So if you hear another episode and I'm just like, yeah, I have this new craft. Yeah, that's because I was going to post that one for my weekly and my weekly free and not my Patreons. Oh, he's crying so bad. I have to go get him. But yes, if you get the chance to go to my Patreon, please support me. I would love to know if you guys even like this content. So please leave comments or, find me on Instagram or find me on Twitter and let me know how good or bad I'm doing. That would be really wonderful. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful week. This weekend is Memorial Day weekend. So I hope you guys all have fun barbecuing and just remembering our fallen soldiers. And oh my goodness, he's officially awake, I think. So I got to get going. But thank you all for listening, and you guys have a wonderful week. Bye.